Welcome to part 2 of the MRM-4740 library research tutorial. In this tutorial, we will examine methods for evaluating the information resources you encounter during the research process. Specifically, we will look at a variety of different sources with an eye toward authority, relevance, currency, accuracy, and purpose. Let's get started with an example from the library's Search North platform. What you see here is a list of articles dealing with ski resort management from the library's Search North platform. The first thing I will look for is relevance. Let's say we're looking for resources that touch on risk management, and it looks like item number 2 fits that description. I can tell by the title and by looking at the subjects. Do you see risk management in business? While it's hard to evaluate for accuracy without actually reading the article, I can select the peer-reviewed filter. This filters out any articles that were not published in peer-reviewed journals. If we take a closer look at the full record for the item, we see the author's names, the source or the title of the journal it was published in, and the publication date. Let's start by evaluating for authority. If we look at the author's names, we see numbers indicating a footnote. This tells me I can find related information at the bottom of the page, and there it is. It looks like both authors are affiliated with research universities. While you certainly shouldn't stop evaluating for authority at this point, it is a good start. Looking back toward the top, I can see that this article was published in the Journal of Outdoor Recreation, Education, and Leadership in 2017. That checks the currency box because we know it's recent. Now, before I leave the full record, I always read the abstract. This will help me in determining relevance. And I take a look at the subject terms and keywords. Again, relevance. But they also help me improve what I call research vocabulary. We can also evaluate for authority, relevance, currency, and accuracy by looking at the article, of course. The first page contains much of the information we found in the record, including journal title and publication date, author affiliation, and abstract and keywords. All scholarly articles also contain a reference list at the end of the document. You may have also heard this called a works cited page or a bibliography. Let's have a look at this article's references page. Here we see each item the author has consulted and used for this paper. The reference list allows us to evaluate for both authority and relevance by examining the sources they consulted. Here we have a mix of scholarly articles and reports from government and industry agencies. It's also important to closely examine a references page in each article you find because if you see the same names appearing on a regular basis, that could mean you're on the right track. Think of these articles as conversations between experts. The references list could be considered a list of participants in that conversation. And if you see the same name or names appearing regularly, you'll know to look for their published work as well. Also, the references page is like research done for you. It can lead you directly to more relevant sources. An additional element you'll want to consider when evaluating an article is its origin. Where was it published? The record tells us it was published in the Journal of Outdoor Recreation, Education, and Leadership, and I can see that the journal title is actually a link. Let's select it. The record for the journal confirms that it is in fact peer-reviewed. This helps us check the box for authority because we know the article went through a rigorous editorial process before it was published. In heading out to Google Scholar on the open web, we can perform similar searches and evaluate the resources in much the same fashion. It's important to note, however, that you have less control over your search terms. This means that the subjects of the papers you find may vary to a greater degree, leaving you with less relevant results. Don't let this deter you. You just have to do a little bit more filtering. As you can see, I use the same search terms, ski resort management. The results vary widely in publication date, and it looks like I'll have to actually select a title to get to the information I'm looking for. Let's take a closer look at item number 2. Here I can find more information That will help me evaluate for authority, currency, and relevance. Keep in mind that you will most likely have to request items you find on Google Scholar through interlibrary loan. Again, this shouldn't deter you. Visit the ILL page, Interlibrary Loan, on our website for more information. It's likely that you'll come across reports from government and industry agencies throughout the research process. I can see that the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation, part of the Agency of Natural Resources, has a section on their website for news, reports, and projects. I can also see in the URL bar, that this is a .gov website. This helps us check the authority or credibility box when evaluating an item. It's important to pay attention to the extension in the URL. Is it a .gov, a .edu, a .org, or a .com? Just because something comes from a .gov or a .edu doesn't necessarily mean it's credible. And likewise, just because something comes from a .com doesn't mean it's bad information. It's just something you should include in your evaluation practices. In viewing the title page of the report, I can examine for authority, currency, and relevance. Furthermore, the reports also often contain helpful statistics the agency produced while they were doing research. Perhaps this is another check in the relevancy box. Lastly, we come to a .com. This is the Lift blog. I found it through a standard Google search. We do have some information on authority here. At the very least, we know who is responsible for the blog. When we take a closer look at the blog, we see a list of news articles, a Twitter feed, and some advertising, all things to keep an eye out for. When it comes to blogs and news sites such as this, we have to recognize that the information was published without going through a rigorous editorial process. The items they link to, at least on this page, don't appear to be original research studies. We don't have a date or any dates to indicate currency, and the purpose of the information may be to entertain rather than to inform. Again, it doesn't mean that the information on the site is useless. It simply means you, the researcher, has to be especially critical when evaluating for authority, relevance, currency, accuracy, and purpose. Regardless of the circumstances, and regardless of where you encounter information, it's helpful to establish a mental checklist that asks, who is the author or creator? Is the individual or group or groups of people qualified to write on this topic? Is the item relevant to what you're working on? And who's the intended audience? Is the item current? Are you able to verify the accuracy of the information? Do you know if the item has gone through a rigorous editorial process? And what is the purpose of the item? Entertain, persuade, sell, inform? We hope this helps, and as always, come see us with questions.